Right, this video is going to be a bit different. Usually I can laugh off most flat earth claims. The weird maps, the cherry-picked diagrams, the ice walls and all the rest of it. That's usually just fringe delusion. But today, this crosses a line. Today we take a look at one of the most disgraceful things a flat earther has ever said. And I simply could not let this one go. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Flat Earth Friday with me, Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Before we begin with today's video though, I was reading earlier how NASA have fast-tracked a 100 kilowatt lunar program for the moon. And I was reading that story on Ground News, which was actually founded by a former NASA engineer called Harleen Kaur who worked on the James Webb Space Telescope. Now Ground News combines stories and articles from thousands of outlets, local and national, in one place so readers can see the full picture of what's being reported around the world. As you can see here, Ground News shows you if there's any political leanings for each publication. And in this instance, we can see that it's mainly centre-driven, this story, with 406 total news sources. For every story, you get a quick visual breakdown of the news outlets covering it, what their political bias is, how factual the source is, which entity owns the source and which countries are covering the story. Now Ground News is also gaining notoriety for its work. They were recently recognised by the Nobel Peace Centre for their impact on media literacy, saying it's an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers and expand your worldview, which is exactly why we use Ground News as well. You can see every side to every story with access to international perspectives that are hard to find, so then you can make informed decisions where you can read, watch and share the best information available. Plus, Ground News is mission-centric. It's not about eliminating bias, but providing better transparency. And they're funded by the community, not by big ads or investors. So go to ground.news/Simon, stay fully informed on breaking news and compare media coverage. Subscribe through my link in the description to get 40% off unlimited access if you support the mission and find it as useful as I do. Right, on with today's video then, which features flat earther Nathan Oakley. Now this particular video is from one of his live streams and it was pointed out to me by one of the channel friends, Ranty, who used to be a flat earther. Thank you very much to you, Ranty. The link for his channel is in the description where he's got his own take on this. Now during this live stream of Nathan's, the topic of pitch data came up. Now this is something recorded by aircraft instruments, like gyros and accelerometers, etc. And it tells us how the aircraft is orientated during flight. Now this is crucial in accident investigations. It helps reconstruct things like whether the aircraft was climbing or descending or in a nosedive, if the pilots were correcting the altitude, and the moment pitch changed prior to impacts. Nathan though has his opinion on this, and it takes a turn that even I didn't expect.
Yeah, I've already asked this. Like yesterday I explained, if you want to go back and listen to the debate in this regard, feel free to go and register as a member, or if you already are, go and listen to 2379C, where we discuss this in great detail. If you want to suggest that pitch data is auto-correcting, then you're going to need to show me NTSB data that shows what the correction is made from with raw data, so we can see how it's being corrected from it. Now that is not what we have got. What we've got is flat earth data measured from the NTSB.
Now Nathan's opening gambit is to explain that the NTSB, the US National Transportation Safety Board, is somehow providing flat earth data. This is a federal agency that investigates aviation incidents, and they do that to prevent people from dying. And he's trying to drag their work into his delusion. Just so we're clear, the NTSB's job is to work out what went wrong in plane crashes and how to stop it from happening again. The pitch data that he's referring to is used to work out an aircraft's orientation, which I assume Nathan is using because he thinks a plane should be orientated with its nose downward to follow the curve of the Earth, which of course is wrong. They maintain altitude, and altitude is defined as relative to sea level, not the centre of the Earth. Now the cruise control systems of planes and the autopilots keep the plane at a fixed altitude by using barometric pressure, not by adjusting pitch manually.
Now when push came to shove yesterday, when being asked where does this get demonstrated, I've already covered this once, Bob Nodell was cited. So I'll say it again. You can suggest that there's an auto-correction for X-axis 15 degrees claimed to be deviation in Bob's faulty gyro. Meanwhile, avionics requires gyroscopic motion be exactly that. That's to say, if it's drifting, it's broken.
The irony here being that Nathan is citing Bob Nodell, the very man who accidentally demonstrated Earth's rotation using a ring laser gyroscope. According to Nathan, if gyros drift, they're broken, as if engineers and pilots haven't known for decades that they drift, and therefore they require correction. That's why we have systems in aircraft to account for these well-known effects. Bob's experiment confirmed the exact rotational speed of Earth, 15 degrees per hour, and Nathan's response is to call it faulty? Of course it is.
Now, how do I know this is true? Let me think. Oh yeah, we've got NTSB pitch data that shows it. What's that? It's corrected. How dare you suggest that the NTSB would alter this raw data when investigating people's death? No, it's actually a suggestion that Bob Nodell has with their X-axis claim with a broken gyro. That's what you've got when you make that suggestion. Now, until I'm shown a violation of the actual measurements, all I'll accept is the NTSB pitch data, and we've already got it.
Let's take this one slowly. First, the NTSB does correct pitch data when necessary. Not to alter the truth, but to ensure accuracy. That's literally their job. Secondly, and far, far worse, he brings into question a plane crash and says, how dare you suggest the NTSB would alter this raw data when investigating people's deaths? As if anyone had, Nathan. This sounds like you're setting up a straw man so you can take the moral high ground. But here's the actual problem. You're the one bringing up crash victims. You're the one implying somehow these deaths validate your flat earth theory. That's not you being moral, that's you being manipulative.
I don't need you dickheads to show us Bob's broken gyro. I'll just rely on the NTSB, thanks. You can keep Bob though, it's alright. No worries. That's your standard, you can keep him. No problem.
No, I'm sticking with the official pitch data.
Well, then Earth's measured flat, Neil, when they investigate people's deaths, because if you've got a negative pitch, you're crashing.
Let me get this straight. Because pitch data sometimes shows a negative angle, you think that proves Earth is flat. Nathan, a negative pitch means the nose is angled downwards, which usually means the aircraft is descending. That's what happens in, a crash. But instead of acknowledging that, you claim that the Earth is just flat?
And if that consistently happens over a period of time, then the plane hits the ground, the flat ground that's been measured for its altitude when it descends towards it and then hits it. So it's quite important that they actually measure this accurately, and they measure it flat. There is no self-correction in this raw data, and any attempt to suggest that there is met with Bob Nodell being the citation.
Yes, Nathan. Locally, as in the area a plane is crashing into, the ground is functionally flat. That's not evidence of a flat Earth. That's just how ground level works over short distances. But your smug laugh at the end, that's really what says it all. You're not here to understand the data, and you're not here to question anything honestly. That much is obvious.
I would like to see the pitch data on that flight that went from the UK, was heading to India. That thing
What?
barely got off the ground.
What are you talking about, Neil?
The plane, when there was that one survivor guy, the Indian
the pitch
guy.
data from the NTSB for that crash, if they were investigating it, I don't know if it would be the NTSB, it'd probably be an Indian investigation team. But regardless, it may have been. They'd be investigating the same thing with the same black box data.
Yeah, but on that incident, he was at takeoff, so they will have a data for a few hundred meters.
Yeah, it never got to go in the air.
It did.
Well,
It took off. It just didn't raise to the altitude
Right.
required. It just went down.
right. So
Right.
it never really went higher than, what, a couple of 100 feet?
But the point is, Neil, that in terms of how much leverage they've got for the ground and whether or not it's going to meet the bottom of the aircraft, killing everyone on board, they don't measure it with a drop from the horizontal that the chord line of the wing is measured with respect to. Like your suggestion that you've got an Earth curve. A curve is a drop from the horizontal. Now, if there is a drop from the horizontal, then they've got more wiggle room to not die. That's not what's being measured, though. The ground is flat.
This is the part where the argument really breaks down and crosses every line of decency. Nathan is describing an actual crash, one with a single survivor, and trying to argue that if the Earth curved away under the plane, the passengers would have had more wiggle room to survive. What he's missing, aside from human compassion, is that Crash investigators are measuring things like descent rate, angle of impact and engine performance. They're not modelling planetary geometry, they're reconstructing the final moments of a failed flight. And Nathan is just sitting on his live stream talking about wiggle room to not die, like this is some sort of cartoon. Absolutely appalling.
And when people crash into it and the NTSB investigate it, they're not accounting for an extra void opening up ahead of the aircraft at 8 inches per the mile squared. That is not what is measured. If it was, then they might not have died, because there'd be a void opening up ahead of them. There isn't. Earth's being measured flat when we investigate people's death, because the surface level is what they crash into. And if it was falling away, they'd have more time before they smashed into it. But they don't. Earth is measured flat.
This right here is flat earth logic at its worst. Nathan says, and I quote, "If it was, they might not have died because there'd be a void opening up ahead of them." This is a real argument being made, that Earth's curvature would somehow provide more space between the plane and the ground while it's crashing. That's not physics, that's not even coherent. Earth curves over huge distances, not within a few hundred feet of a runway. But again, Nathan doesn't care. He's not here to learn. He's here to exploit things like plane crashes to score a point that's already been debunked thousands of times.
That's a good point. I saw that whole visual as you were explaining it. Very good.
But if you want to claim that actually the ground's opening up ahead of the aircraft, well, then they'd have more time to not die. But the disrespect of these globe-believing idiots will put other people's deaths behind their need for their religious belief of the ground opening up ahead of this aircraft. That's what they will do, because the globe-believing we deal with are incredibly disrespectful. And they will try and explain that there's a self-correction for a void opening up ahead of the aircraft that could have prevented the deaths. How disrespectful. Meanwhile, the pitch data we rely on, the measurements of Earth, are flat.
Right, Nathan Oakley here is accusing globe believers, that's people like pilots and engineers and scientists, anyone who accepts basic physics, people like you and me, are being disrespectful for explaining how planes follow a curved Earth. Let's be clear. No one in aviation thinks there's a void opening up in front of a plane. That is not how curvature on this planet works. But even more disturbing is Nathan's tone. He's suggesting that because we model the Earth as a globe, that's somehow to blame for people dying in plane crashes. That's not just wrong, that's disgusting. You accuse other people of disrespect, whilst you sit on a live stream exploiting the final moment of people's lives to push a conspiracy. That's what this is, a performance, and you should be utterly ashamed.
That's what they investigate when aircraft crash into the ground. There's no void opening up ahead of these aircraft. Let's make it absolutely plain and simple. Earth's being measured flat by air crash investigators. That's because it is. Make no bones about it.
Not only is Nathan awful, he doesn't seem to be very intelligent either. Does he literally think the Earth is only 100 metres across? Because that's the only way a void will open up under a plane. An Earth with a 40,000 kilometre circumference is way too big for that to happen.
CC me in, globe believers, if you want to contest the flat Earth measurements taken by the NTSB. CC me in to the email you send to the NTSB when you tell them they didn't account for the ground opening up ahead of the aircraft at 8 inches per mile squared. Make sure you CC me in, NathanOakley1980 at AOL.com. I want to be copied in to the email to the NTSB that says they're wrong when they don't account for the ground opening up ahead of them at 8 inches per mile squared. They don't, because Earth is flat.
Nobody is CCing you, Nathan. You don't get to be part of the investigation team because you watched a few YouTube videos. The NTSB doesn't measure ground opening up. They measure vertical speed, altitude and terrain elevation, none of which have anything to do with your math of 8 inches per mile squared, which isn't even correct, by the way, over long distances. Here is your problem. The Earth is a globe, and your attempt to use aviation disasters to deny that isn't just wrong, it's deeply disrespectful. Well, there we go, everyone. How appalling was that? Let me know in the comments below what you thought as we wrap this one up and say we're all done and dusted for another one. Thanks so much for watching this Flat Earth Friday. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up button too. Just enough time to once again thank Ground News for sponsoring today. Remember, go to ground.news/Simon to stay fully informed on breaking news and compare media coverage. Click the link in the description to subscribe and get 40% off unlimited access if you support the mission and find it as useful as I do. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for another Saturday session. See you then.